I went from 20,000 subscribers to 500,000 subscribers in about 13 months. Last year, in September 2023, my main channel, Amy Wang, had 20,000 subscribers, and today I have 531,000 subscribers, and I reached 500,000 subscribers on October 19th of this year, 2024. This was insane, and I'm so proud of my genuine community that I've built of amazing people and how this growth was made steady and, importantly, organically with long-form content. So today I'm answering your questions to celebrate 500,000 subscribers in this Q&A where we will go over my backstory, what to post, how to even start and what to edit with, blah, 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 how to be consistent, what does my process look like, how to find a niche, how to balance that with passion videos, how do you be confident, and how to inspire other people. Thank you so much, everyone who submitted your questions on my YouTube community post and on Instagram. I'm so surprised at how many people want to be content creators. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised because it's like a dream job, right? But I just wanted to make this Q&A to give back to you in a way to thank you for all the support you've given me, if you're new, if you're returning, and in alignment for why I started YouTube in the first place. I just have so much to say and to share that I think would be helpful for other people who are maybe just a couple steps behind me and who have such magical potential that you just need to bring out. So here we are today on my podcast, Your A+ Life. I think this is going to be part 1 of this YouTube Q&A because there were just so many great questions. So tune in for the next content creation video so you can get more juicy advice and see if your question is answered. I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is sounding extra husky today because I'm a little sick. That's why the tea of the day is just hot water. Nevertheless, I guess that's just the first mini tip. It's like, creating for people, for a community, is a relationship. It's a commitment that even though I'm not feeling so hot today, I was like, you know what? Still gotta make this Q&A so people can start using the hopefully helpful advice as soon as possible. Plus, talking with y'all makes me happier anyway. Aw. Okay, so first question is about my backstory and different ways of content creation. So what are the different ways of content creation and the backstory of how you got into this field? Great. So before I answer, I want to mention that you, if you're watching, you're likely already a creator or an aspiring creator. So if you have any thoughts or insights to these questions, I want you to try answering it with your perspective in the comments as well. It's really great practice per the Feynman technique to try and teach others and to problem solve and think of what your answer would be, because that's part of creativity, right? You have to find ways to make something out of nothing. Plus, I really hope for our comment section to be kind of like a Reddit forum, quote unquote, where everyone has really useful insights to share and you can bounce ideas off of each other, support each other, and it's almost like a mini step to creating a YouTube channel, right? Because you need to have the courage to know the value inside of yourself and to share it with other people. So my main channel, Amy Wang, with the over 500,000 subscribers, was actually not my first YouTube channel. My first ever YouTube channel I made in 2017 with my sister, and it was actually a song singing cover channel. My sister and I fell in love with BTS that year, the K-pop group, but we couldn't sing Korean. We always loved singing karaoke ever since we were kids on road trips, Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus, all the Disney Channel bangers, but we couldn't sing K-pop songs. So we thought of the idea to rewrite the Korean lyrics into singable English ones. So consider tweaking the direct translation such that it maintains as much of the direct meaning as possible, but it will rhyme, the pacing and the rhythm and the emphasis on syllables will sound right, as if it could have been originally written in English. We made these lyrics into karaoke videos and sang covers to show how you would sing these lyrics. The most important part about this first YouTube channel is the fact that we created this out of an itching to help other people. We had this idea that not only we knew would help ourselves, but we knew that this was a hole that could be filled within the entire YouTube world, or like the entire online space, to be frank, internationally. So that's a huge key. It's like when you see this hole that you can fill, then of course, once you start making that quality kind of video, people are going to flock over because this was a need they had. And you would be surprised at how large the world is. Like, there is an audience for almost anything that's quality, at least, you know? So whatever speaks to you, like this idea spoke to us, it will probably speak to a lot of different people too, because you are a unique individual, but many people have similar interests, or like if you have friends, right, they vibe with you. So basically, when you're creating something that resonates with you so deeply, then that's going to by chance just touch the randos in the world who are meant to be your friend in another life. I became obsessed with creating YouTube videos because I got a positive feedback loop from viewers saying, "Thank you so much for letting me sing my favorite songs. Your voices are so beautiful." Just a lot of gratitude and requests for new songs. So that really pushed me to create videos, staying up till like 2 a.m., even while I was doing my software internship over the summers. That's the important backstory of my first channel, because even though it was super hard to mix covers, to record myself, to understand how to make a video in the first place, we figured it out. And we figured it out all for free, besides buying a mic, because you need a high quality mic to make song covers. And I also realized that, hey, this is actually something I can do. I can actually build an audience, and this is insane. And I never thought I would be a YouTuber. I never considered this field at all. But I realized that YouTube and any social media is simply the vessel for which I can share something that I believe needs to be shared. Fast forward to 2020, my sister and I were not spending as much time on the music channel because I was in college, things were pretty busy, and I decided that I wanted to vlog at Caltech. So Caltech, the California Institute of Technology, is my alma mater. And it's an incredibly unique school with fewer than 1,000 undergrad students. The setup is like Hogwarts, with 8 different houses, all different personalities, and you get sorted into them with crazy traditions and not really hazing, but you know, stuff like that. And I just thought more people needed to know about it. It's a crazy difficult school to survive, which totally makes sense why there are no day in the life videos about Caltech. But I was like, oh, you know, I want those videos. I think they should exist. So, you know, after thinking about this for so long, I'm like, hey, I can do it. I take be the change you want to see in the world very seriously, as you can tell from the motives of starting each channel. So in February 2020, I believe, I vlogged for an entire week, intending there to be a total of 7 videos, like day 1, day 2, day 3, for a week in the life of a Caltech student. Okay, awesome. It was so cringe and I was shy to be speaking to a camera for the first time because we were just singing before, like in 2.5-minute videos. But, you know, I was so proud of filming that. And turns out getting that footage and pushing myself to vlog that whole week was one of the best decisions I ever made. Because what happened a month later, in March 2020, COVID hit, COVID-19, when we suddenly had to pack up all our stuff and go home, with only glimmers of hope that we'd come back for the spring term. But then spring term got canceled, and eventually my whole senior year of college got wiped out as well. But during this time, I was at home, and then I edited these videos, and I offered them to Caltech admissions, the admissions team, to share with their prospective students. So seniors in high school, they got into Caltech, but they couldn't visit campuses now. So this was actually really valuable for both the students in Caltech admissions, since now they can share the feel for what it would be like to be on campus without actually going there because of the pandemic. My videos being helpful and valuable paralleled the first YouTube channel in that, again, I got this positive feedback loop of people commenting, "Thank you so much," and then asking questions about more things. I always get really excited when people request video topics because I'm like, oh my gosh, you care what I think about. It's very gratifying. So this kind of led me to continue making videos, ranting about COVID, and then like other random videos. Only in like 2021 was I like, oh, I really want to grow on YouTube. And so struggled in 2021. Then come January 2022, I was like, I cannot edit everything myself. This is impossible with my new consulting job. The time commitment is just insane. I would spend 20 hours editing my video about the metaverse and it would get like 400 views. So I realized if I am to really try this thing, I have to give my all to see what's possible. I have to pull out all the stops and allow myself the iterations to see what happens. Because if I don't input everything I can in the most creative and efficient ways I can, then I would never really know if the output is the maximum I can do. Does that make sense? It's like I knew that in order to see whether I could actually become a YouTuber, I needed to try removing the biggest constraints, which for me was time. I couldn't just jump in to be a full-time YouTuber because my parents would kill me, and I was a new grad. So that's why I hired an editor super early on. I think I just got like 1,000 subscribers or something. Yeah, I just had 1,000 subscribers because December 2021, I got 1,000 subscribers. December 2022, I got 10,000 subscribers. And then 2023, December, I got 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, basically that was the progression. I'm realizing this is a lot longer story. If you have any follow-up questions, please comment below. But I think it's really valuable to understand the little details behind a journey, because some little detail can resonate and be like, oh, okay, so Amy did this and it was still possible. So, okay, I'm going to do this too. Or, something can just inspire you. But I want to kind of fast forward and say that year, 2022, was a huge struggle. Again, because I wasn't doing so hot on long form, and then short form was all the rage. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pump out more short form. And so I tried to make a lot of TikToks, posted like 2 to 3 a day. And then I didn't believe in Instagram Reels at the time, so I didn't repost any there. And I even tried posting things on Pinterest. It was such a weird time. And I think that answers the question kind of like, what are all the ways to be a content creator? You can make long form YouTube videos. You can make short form on different platforms. You can write blogs. You can make different formats of videos within long form videos and short form videos. You can make Instagram posts with cute outfits like those fashion girlies. So it's really endless, and I think that's also what makes it really hard at the start, because for me, I tend to get shiny object syndrome. So I see all this opportunity in many different flavors, and I'm like, I gotta catch them all. I can't put all my eggs in one basket like YouTube. I gotta try everything. And that made things really hard, both straining my mental capacity and my time availability, because you just can't do something really well if you spread all your energy, because that mental strain of transitioning from one idea to the other, it also takes extra energy. So I think eventually, it might have been 2023 when I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to cut out everything. I'm going to try to set more boundaries and fight against my nature and just focus on long form YouTube videos. And eventually it panned out. The story is getting a little long, but I think we'll go into the other details when I answer the other questions in this Q&A. Oh, also thank you, VCNILXA, for the first question. And Shika asks, I'm quite confused about what to post for content creation. I think you should always start with, what do you want to share? I said this in my other video too, but the headline you have to understand when you are trying to grow as a creator is, number one, why does this thing have to exist that you're making or that you want to make? And number two, why do you have to be the one that makes it exist? If you can answer those two questions, that is your drive and your fire that's going to be like the beating heart behind this whole operation throughout this grueling, tough journey. And it also will inform what you post and how you post it. And then it just becomes a way of discovering the kind of like flavor in which you deliver that message. I truly don't believe, as you can see from my past channels, that you should become a creator just because you want to become a creator. Like, that's kind of silly, right? Like, people want to become doctors. Well, some of them for the money and because of their Asian parents. People want to become doctors because they want to help people. They want to save people. People want to be lawyers maybe because they're logical and they like to debate. These are just examples, right? But I think like the best people in each field or profession are there because they have a bigger reason for being there. Either it's some kind of passion they have, or it's their natural talent, or where they're suited for. Maybe it's a combination of both, which is ideal. And so I think we should take the same approach to content creation, where content is just content, right? Like, you can see so much brain rot and like content that doesn't need to exist out there. Personally, I think there's a ton of trash out there, and the trash content out there isn't what grows a sustainable, long-lasting, profitable brand. So you need to think of it that way. Like, why do I need to contribute to the digital landscape? These big companies are continually adding more storage, right? It's like, why do we need to fill up all that space? But yeah, like, why do you have to take up more cloud storage? That's my question, right? So maybe that sounds a little brutal, but it's like, yeah, why does the world need your voice? So I believe that every single person has value to give because we live unique lives where we have our own endeavors, pursuits, overcame challenges, and perspectives on the world. But there are certain ways to package certain things that like resonate more with other people, you know? Like, you can have this unique experience of like falling into a swimming pool when you're a kid or something, as an example. And that's a unique experience, and you might have learned things from that. But like, how are you going to make that relevant as part of a story in your larger channel, you know? Just as an example, right? The point is, you have to remember that YouTube is a relationship, and you have to connect with the people who are watching your video. So why is what you're saying relevant to them? You know, you can't just like make a friend by talking about random things to a stranger. Once you figure out what you have to say and what you have to share, think about who that target audience is. Like, who is that person that needs to hear that, and in what format would they be most receptive to it? Number one, like, what format would they be receptive and be watching? For example, if you want to reach people who are really serious about finances and investments, then the more serious people might be on YouTube long form too. And then also number two, consider like the quality of audience you want, because I do want to say that you out there right now listening to this long form video, you are likely a higher caliber audience member than someone who's scrolling on TikTok. So I think that's important to know as well as number 2. And then number 3, what is your capacity for that type of content? Because YouTube videos, of course, take a lot more effort to make, but you also have to understand that for short form, you're going to have to pump out more of that. So it's like, what do you prefer and what fits within your capabilities and your schedule? RWTW Shaw asks, how to start it and stay consistent. I alluded to the mindset to start a YouTube channel in the earlier answers. But as far as like actually starting it, just find a way to film, get good audio, hence my little mic right here, and write out the points of your first video. And then just hit record and see what happens. Don't put too much pressure on the first time you film, or even the second, third, 10th times. It's going to be pretty hard if you're not a natural. The way to stay consistent is reduce as much friction as possible. So this kind of goes into the next question about the technical aspects of my process. But there's a reason why to this day I still film with my iPhone camera. It's because it reduces friction. I just, whenever I want to film, okay, on my main channel, I'll put on makeup, right? So that's a little bit of friction. But at least today, I can just take out my handy dandy tripod that's like bendable. These are linked in the description if you're interested. I include my Amazon links in case any of you are interested in what equipment I use. So I take out this handy dandy tripod, plop my phone onto it, I plug in this lavalier mic, and boom, I can start recording. And I guess some things are like this string strip lights where I have behind me, so it looks a little better. I have my desk lamp with a light. A lamp is a light, yes. So if it's dark out, I can look decently presentable. But this is a podcast channel, and the reason I started this podcast channel is also because I wanted a little bit less friction for getting more, I think, like valuable insights I have out to the world. First of all, I couldn't really talk about content creation on my main channel because I don't think that applies to a lot of my audience. And then number 2, that main channel takes a lot of time and effort such that I just couldn't justify like making a whole new channel that's like super edited to the T and everything. So I just thought that this podcast channel was happy balance. But also relating to the earlier question about what to post, I purposefully wanted a podcast channel that was this chill. Not because it's like just like for myself. It's not really like selfish reasons, like I said earlier, of like lack of time. But I also believe that podcasts are popular now for a reason. It's amazing how you can connect on a much deeper level with your audience members. And I believe it increases the quality of your audience. Because, like I said many times in my videos, on my literal description for this channel, the deeper, longer things that you can stick through listening are what's going to make the most impact. When you consume long form content and you are patient to absorb and internalize the speaker's energy and their perspective, you're more likely going to be able to convert that into your own mindsets and actions. And I think mindset, as part of the yin yang of action and mindset, is an extremely underrated factor. Like most people, when they struggle and they watch those videos, do XYZ to self-improve and be successful and be rich and to be a YouTuber, right? They struggle because they can't do XYZ. And that's like the action part, right? But to be able to do the action part, they're missing the mindset. And so if you are listening like you are right now and building and rewiring your mindset, that is actually productive. It's like when you listen to an advice video that's only objective, no fluff, like wake up at 6 a.m., take a cold shower, right? So the productive part is only when you actually wake up at 6 a.m. and take a cold shower, right? It's not the listening to that video. But in a podcast where your goal is to rewire your mindset and to become a more patient, focused person, consuming that content itself is part of the productivity, is most of the productive part. So that's the distinction between action and mindset, and why I think podcasts are the kind of productive action to rewire your mindset. So I think that can give some insight as to maybe the kind of content that you want to make, because not all audience members are created equal. Not all audiences are created equal. Like I said, this audience, like you right now, you're probably a lot higher quality of an audience who is smarter, thinks deeper about things than an audience who's following this guru guy on TikTok who just spits out 3 quick facts every 5 hours. Okay, I know I went off a bit of a tangent, but how to stay consistent, it also has to do with that fire, that drive that I was talking about earlier. Like the why do you have to make things exist? Because when you have a reason for making things exist, you're like, we gotta keep sharing this message. We ain't reaching enough people who need this message or my story, so we gotta keep making videos. So that's really important as well. I'd say your environment's really important. My fiance, fortunately, he's very supportive. He doesn't really understand what I'm doing mostly though, and it is an incredibly lonely journey because you are the innovator and no one can understand that as well as you. Many people will not be on the same path as you, but if other people can support you, that makes a world of a difference. Going into the technical questions and consistency/process, this all relates together. So Jod asks, what do you use to edit your videos? I edit with Final Cut Pro primarily, short form and long form. I have a couple editors right now too. Just like I said, I had an editor since the very beginning. She uses Final Cut Pro, and sometimes our process is like, I want to do the rough cut, so I'll do the rough splicing in Final Cut Pro, and then I will export the whole library as an XML, pass it to her, and then she can do the longer things. And sometimes we pass it back and forth because I want to get my hands dirty and do the fun, creative little funny edits as well. So that's kind of the way that I do editing. As far as the whole process, okay, so let me go through the workflow. I never run out of ideas. I think that's one thing that I realized makes me suitable for doing YouTube and content creation, because I am such an overthinker. And not only an overthinker in terms of like repeating the same thoughts, but I just like think really deeply about simple things, and I can always draw connections and relate things together. And so even going about my everyday life, even if I'm not in school, I can be like, hey, that thing I did today to organize my tasks and etc., that is similar to what I did in school, and I did it because I think of it this way, and blah, blah, blah. I just have a lot to say because I have a lot to think up here. And so as far as ideas, that's definitely not my bottleneck. I have hundreds of iCloud notes of ideas that I'll probably never get through in this lifetime. That's something to consider as well. Like I said earlier, your suitability for something like content creation, because if you're someone who just always runs out of ideas, or like you don't have much to say, like it's going to be really hard for you to come out with new content, right? And so that also relates to like, what do you have to say, and like why do you have to be the one who says it? Because if you can answer those two questions, like it'll really help you with idea generation as well. So that's why I kind of say that content creation is like the birth and the death of me, because it's the birth and like I'm like, wow, I found this place where I feel so fulfilled, and I feel like I am just meant to be in this area because I hyperanalyze things a lot and I have so many ideas. So great, YouTube's my outlet. But then on the other hand, YouTube is also the death of me, because now my thinking is like my quote unquote job, And so I want to think even more. And it's just kind of like a snowball effect. I digress. Again, I guess this is just more insight as to how my brain works, how my mindset works, and how I've survived this far on YouTube, I guess. So after I have like so many ideas, sometimes I do sit down and be like, okay, what are topics that have been trending right now in my niche, and what have my audience members been requesting? So then I have a better idea of the packaging. So packaging is a thumbnail and title. So with a thumbnail and title, sometimes it's affected by how I integrate a sponsor now. Then I see my ideas and my philosophies and things I've thought of at random times during the week. I see how I can take those brain dumps and synthesize them into that one packaged topic. Once I do that, then I will, write things in a more structured way. My intro will be a little more word for word written script, but the rest of my script is more like an outline, not a script word for word, because I like to talk a little more candidly, and I think it's a little easier to film, honestly, when you write an outline instead of a script that you have to follow word for word. So that's what I discovered as good for my workflow. Then I try to be a little ahead on having these scripts / outlines prepared. So then when I know that I'm going out Thursday night and I have to wear makeup, I will try to plan my showered days so my hair is not oily with that night when I have to wear makeup, and then I'll film on that day. I try to batch film if I can, like 2 videos each time, so this really increases efficiency. My hair is washed and cleaned. I have to put on makeup anyway, so then I just put on makeup, film the 2 videos, get on my event, and it's always such a relief at the end of the day. I still get nervous when I'm filming my videos. When it's a filming day, I'm like, oh, I have to be so perfect. But sometimes I realize, I just try to take a step back and be like, hey, my audience, they're my friend. They're just normal people behind the screen. So if I can just let go and be my normal self and talk to them like a friend, then I'm good to go. That's how I try to think about it and reduce my nervousness. Once I have my footage, my whole system is via Apple iCloud. I used to be an Android fellow, but my fiance has wholly converted me into the Apple ecosystem. So I film on my phone, airdrop it to my laptop, goes into my respective folders, which are already shared with my editor. I use my Notion board, and then that's also shared with my editors, and I just message them and be like, hey, this video is ready for you to edit, and the deadline is also already in the Notion board. So then my editor edits. I love parallel processing things, so I like going about my other work, going to events, doing other chores and tasks, knowing that my video is being created in the background. I'm so grateful for my editors. They're amazing. And then I will review the videos at least 3 times. I think on average, I'll make the thumbnail, title. Well, no, actually, the title is already thought of, hopefully, before I even start making the video. Thumbnail, I also already have an idea of, but sometimes I will still have to think of it to optimize it. And then I'll make the thumbnail, of course. I make it on Canva. Yeah, I think that is it. Again, I know you are all of different experience levels and backgrounds and goals in YouTube. So it would be super helpful if with each response, if you have something to say, just comment it, and then I can get to know you as an audience better so I can help you better too. Because now I'm realizing, wow, this process is so huge that I really hope, like I said earlier, giving these additional details will be helpful. I know I would have found it helpful when I was on the start of my YouTube journey. Our queen asks, how long does it take you to film the study tips videos? So for those who have not checked out my main channel is primarily study, productivity, self-growth videos. So for a typical video, I'd say it takes me about 30 minutes to film. At least the entire raw footage is 30 minutes. Sometimes I have a really bad filming day and it takes me an hour. Some days, a good filming day, and it's 20 minutes. And when it's a bad filming day in my A-roll, I'm like telling my editor, sorry, it's a bad filming day. But yeah, it is not a quick process to film, and it also is quite mentally draining sometimes. I get really excited when filming itself, but what you film is still something you present out to the world, to hopefully thousands of people, right? So you feel accomplished after filming. Okay, Abby X Art left a sweet comment and asks about consistency, which I touched upon earlier, but also she says, my biggest problem with content creation is inconsistency and just not having enough time to edit my work and perfect it. So I was wondering how you keep a consistent schedule and how do you reach more people and push your content out? I know in the past you've touched upon spending hours and hours on a video for it to have such low view count, but would you mind talking about your growth process from that to now a 500,000 member community? Whew, okay, this is a lot. I mean, I went through so many trials and errors to come to 500K. I think what I can distill it down to is the consistency is finding a system with low friction and getting editors and help to create this flow of a process. So right now I have a streamlined workflow that took me years to build to make it flow this well, because I didn't really hear of anyone out there who had a workflow like mine. And so this was something that I created and discovered myself as the most optimized process for myself. That only happens when you try different things. Like I tried reaching out to editors on Fiverr and people per hour, and then I tried using different Kanban boards out online. So then I finally found Notion has a great Kanban board system. I used Google Drive and Google Docs for a while, and then I realized, actually I can streamline this to have the documents also be in Notion, and I can have my files within iCloud because I can share the folders. So then I can have just one place where I put all my footage instead of having them in File Explorer and then dragging them into Google Drive. So you have to try and fail, but what's important is you have to reflect. If you just fail and fail and fail, that's the definition of insanity, right? You have to fail and reflect, and fail and reflect, and fail less and reflect, and fail even less and reflect. And that is what the definition of iteration is. So what I can say is this workflow really works well for me. I hope it helps you for inspiration, but it really took a long time for me to get here. And honestly, today I'm still working out some little kinks, always improving my workflow. It's that growth mindset. And it's honestly a lot of the excitement behind building a business and being a creator. It's you're always learning and growing and optimizing even more. So that's how you stay consistent. And that's also how you find time to get out more reps, because only when a video's out do you know, okay, was this good? Was this bad? How do I analyze this? How did the audience respond? And so it's really important to let go of perfectionism. That's something that's kind of hard for myself as well. But you need to let go of perfectionism and realize hey, that little graphic right there, no audience member is going to care about it. The audience is going to care about the big visuals, the B-roll, the human connection, and the emotion that you can evoke from them. And it's the value that comes out of your mouth that they will care about at the end of the day. So you have to realize what the highest value levers are for your particular content and what you have to say, and then be pulling those levers more. Prioritize those levers such that you give yourself time to continue getting in those video reps, because only when you get in video reps can you iterate. So it's really important that even though you're doing everything yourself at the beginning, it's really ironic, right? It's when you're trying to grow, you have the most work, but then you also have the fewest people available to help you. And so when you're at the start of your content creation journey, you really have to distill down what are the priorities and how to make it most efficient, because you cannot do everything. Just like I was saying earlier, like you cannot try so many different social media platforms at once. You have to double down on being really good at 1 to 2 things, get in that flow, and then add on more. Honestly, kind of like my tips videos. When I give 10 tips or 5 tips in a video, I say, don't try to do all the tips at once. Pick 1 to 2, stick to them consistently, see how they go, then add on more. The other part of Abby's question, how do you reach more people? It comes with reps. So I know this is not something you like to hear. This is not something that I really like to hear, because I know we want to hear some kind of one-step solution that's gonna reach more people on the next video, right? But it really depends. And accepting that reality and how it's gonna be hard is what's gonna make you be able to stick it out and be the one who makes it. To reach more people, you have to listen to your audience. I read all of my comments to this day. It pains me to know I cannot respond to every one of them, but I try to really understand who my audience is and what they want to see and what they like. So sometimes someone will comment, oh, I love how you add the memes. It makes it so much more entertaining. And I'm like, okay, great. Let me continue adding more memes. Or some video does well compared to other recent videos. And I'm like, what did I do differently here? So you have to be able to be your own coach and evaluate yourself. Also, it's important to learn about human psychology, I'd say. So be able to put yourself in the viewer's shoes to not only understand why they liked your video, but why did they click on it? And what are your viewers' biggest problems that they need solutions to? So little tip right here is like, if you're going to be an informational creator, like make your videos centered around the problem, not the solution, because oftentimes your viewer doesn't really know what the solution they want is yet. They just know that they have this problem that they want to be fixed. So yeah, do that. And when people see a good video, they will engage and they will watch it, and then you will naturally reach more people. Like my video on this podcast channel, it was, this will make you want to work hard. I talked about my grandfather's story and how my family struggled from a family of farmers and through generations, where now I fortunately am able to live in New York City and live a much better life. I feel guilty about this sometimes, but yeah, live a better life than my grandparents could. So that was a great story, very moving and touching universally. So even though I was a little like, no one's really made a video like this before, I think. I don't know how people are going to receive it, but it was a really darn good video because it was a good story, okay? Don't think of videos just as videos, as like, this moving picture. You're talking to the viewer. That is your relationship that you're building, So a great video, a great story will eventually reach more people. Have faith in that. You've got to have faith, because otherwise how do you keep pushing on this difficult thing called content creation? Niche time. Manya asks, how do you find your niche, especially when you're not exactly an expert? And similarly, Melon Ellen, oh, that's a cute name, asks, how should we weigh choosing a strategic niche/theme, like aiming for higher views, money, etc., versus focusing on passion topics, but that may be less popular, for example? Is choosing a strategic niche that we feel less passionate about a recipe for burnout or demotivation? You are all asking some great questions. All of these questions. First of all, how to find your niche? I think I already answered this actually. Just like, what do you feel so passionately and strongly about? For me, when I was realizing about school and like productivity as my niche, it really started with me helping students with Caltech vlogs. And I realized students, we feel a lot of pressure nowadays. So any kind of comfort that we can kind of have from this big sister figure, a big sister that I never had personally, then that is something that needs to be in the world, is how I felt. And is something I felt like I could provide, because I am a big sister, and I guess I've already had a lot of practice giving advice to younger folks. also with school, I realized that I was in a very unique position where I did achieve a lot academically. Like, I was high school valedictorian while being a varsity athlete. I went to Caltech where I got a 4.0 in chemical engineering. But it was funny because I also got that 4.0 while playing varsity basketball. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm like that stereotypical book nerd that people think of because that's what they see in movies, for example. And so I was in this unique position where I'm really passionate about living life to the fullest and having fun and pursuing passions like sports while still being academically successful. And my perspective was, okay, you become academically successful when you are simply a great person and you grow your human capital and your traits like resilience, problem-solving ability, analytical skills, soft skills, etc., determination, drive. All of these things that make you a great person that will succeed no matter where you go. That's the way I think students should approach school and getting straight A's. So I had this unique perspective that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about talking about this. And like every time I watch a study video, like my blood just boils, like, I want to say something. And so that's how this niche popped out like a baby. And I suppose I should have realized this niche earlier, like I talked about in one of my previous podcast episodes, because I was always denying this part of myself that I was a good student. I was like, students are not cool. So, well, that sounds bad. I mean, top students who like getting good grades are not cool. And I'm also not a student anymore. So I was like, I cannot talk about this, but turns out you can. So don't limit yourself. Dig deep and be like, oh, who am I actually? What am I good at? What am I good at talking about? And embrace it. Be honest with yourself that is your strength, and that's where you should definitely use your quote unquote unfair advantage. So with me, like study videos, if you watch some kind of content out there and you're like, but there's not this that exists that I would love, or like, I have so much to say about this content that, I disagree with, or I can make this better. Go do it. Go in that niche where you have so much to say about, where you have so many opinions, and go execute the thing. Make it better. But as far as weighing the strategic niche with focusing on a passion project, what I said earlier about study tips and passion, it creates harmony, right? Because my niche also ended up being something I'm passionate about. However, I did not know I was passionate about the study niche per se. What I share in my videos is actually isn't directly related to studying sometimes. A lot of it's like thinking much deeper and like philosophies about life and like our mindsets. And so I think that's where you can combine your actual ideas and passions with a topic that a lot of people want to learn about and that people would click on. So you can find harmony in knowing your ideas, like I was talking about how I have brain dumps, and then you just creatively put those ideas into a quote-unquote niche, right, where the packaging is the niche. And of course, your ideas still have to be relevant to that niche, because otherwise people click and then they realize like you're talking about irrelevant stuff and they go away. But I think there are ways to combine that. And also, what's important to note is that sometimes the passion comes from when your niche becomes successful. So you can pick a niche or theme. Sometimes I don't really like the word niche. You can pick a theme that perhaps you are less passionate about, if you think strategically like that would be more successful and more fruitful. Because when it does become successful, you are gonna become more passionate about that niche. I read this in Millionaire Fastlane, I think, where the author said something like, sure, you can be passionate about playing basketball, but you can't just be passionate about basketball and get to the NBA. However, you can do like finance startups, which you're less passionate about, but once that finance startup makes you a millionaire, then you can play basketball all day and you will actually be more passionate about the finance startup. So I think like success and growing something and having fun in that process, being an entrepreneur, that also is part of the passion and the excitement. I also have a friend who she's so afraid of picking a niche because she's afraid of burning out. And I also had that concern at first, but now that I'm here, I'm just like, first of all, am still excited about my niche. Maybe it doesn't have to be the thing that you are top tier, starry-eyed about, but because I'm here with 500,000 subscribers, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty passionate, So it's like, would you rather be in a niche or theme you're less passionate about and grow successfully and have fun doing that, and then you can dip your toes into other areas? Or would you rather be in an area that you're super passionate about, but that doesn't really fit a kind of need on the internet, and then you can't really grow in views, right? So I think you have to decide what your goal is for creating content in the first place. All right. Mystic Meg asks, and thank you all for your compliments and congratulations. So Mystic Meg asks, I'd love to hear your suggestions on confidence in putting yourself out there. Often I feel a bit self-conscious to share my song covers or some life advice that I think would be helpful, because the thoughts in my head are, is this really new, or has it been said before? What makes me qualified to share an opinion that others may quote? Should I just not share and keep a low profile? I think this is something that applies even to life, hence it'd be really helpful if you share your views on this and your journey through something like this. Thanks a bunch and much love. Oh, much love back. Yeah, I love how you relate this to life, because that's like my whole personality, I guess. It's like any question I get, I'm like, oh, this relates to life somehow and living your A+ life and blah, blah, blah. So confidence. If you watch my earlier videos, cringe to the max, because I sounded like I was scared to talk to the camera. And it's really interesting because I think my whole personality before was like, I played scared in whatever I did that needed more confidence. I think maybe this is also growing up in the circumstances I had and being like one of the few Asians in my high school and like neighborhood and things like that. But even when I was playing basketball, for example, I would just play scared. I couldn't play to my best ability like I did in practices and make 3-pointers simply because I was unconfident. And then also in front of the camera, when I first started YouTube, I would play scared. But that doesn't really work, because the viewer can feel when you're not confident, and that energy makes people less able to stay, because people stay for someone who knows what they're talking about, who believes in what they're saying. Because if I, as a creator, believe in what I'm saying and I'm like, yeah, this is like my holy grail advice, then the viewer is also going to be like, yeah. It's like you kind of feed off that energy. So that context just shows like, yeah, I was not confident to start. And I actually posted a great story the other day. I'll pop it up here next to me for the visual listeners out there. When I was starting YouTube, I would always ask like, oh my gosh, how are the content creators out there so confident? Why are they always so good at speaking and they're just so like natural in front of the camera? And now I understand. Because when you put yourself into a really uncomfortable situation time after time again, and then you conquer it, and then you put yourself in even more uncomfortable situations, and then you keep conquering more and more, it's impossible to not feel confident. Content creators, at least that I know of and myself, are not born confident. we become confident by doing what no one else does. Like, imagine everyone starts at this base level of confidence. Well, of course, the people who try to like put themselves out there and film themselves and like make a fool out of themselves, like they're gonna come out being like, you know what, I'm pretty cool because I might have not been confident to try this, but I did it anyway. And now that I did it and I survived and I'm also thriving now, like, hey, I can do anything. Why doubt myself? Why doubt myself? And so, like, when I film, that's something scary and uncomfortable, right? But then, as a creator, you keep doing more and more uncomfortable things, right? Like, you end up talking to more people. You go to events with, like, scary strangers, and then you just keep leveling up and up. So I think that's a theme of the iteration. And I know there's another part of this question where it's like, how do I know if I can share this and put myself as a quote-unquote expert if I don't actually have that much experience, or if I'm doubtful of myself, or like Meg asks, is this really new or has it been said before? What makes me qualified to share an opinion? To answer this part of the question, I'm going to explain something really important to understand first, and then share what to do if you aren't actually an expert of the area you want to make content about. There's a difference between confidence and being delusional and deceiving your audience. First of all, I think that you, or most people listening, are probably honest people with integrity. So I'm not saying you're trying to deceive people, right? But I'm just saying that once people get desperate about creating an audience, maybe they will turn themselves into something that they're not. And authenticity is key because YouTube is, again, a relationship. You have to be honest in your relationship. So I am considered a study tuber. I think I do a lot more than just study videos, but that's kind of the category that I've been placed into. And right now, there are always continually new study YouTubers popping up being like, oh, how to be productive, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of these people are high schoolers, but they put themselves on the internet as if they're experts. I received this comment on one of my videos that I think illustrates it pretty well. So this person says, quote, "Kids nowadays think they are some insane geniuses after getting A+ in their exams and think they have become the ultimate productivity master. But in reality, they need to accept that videos like how I only study for 2 hours a day and ace my exam kind of videos are basically useless. The competition in Asian countries will overwhelm them and give them a reality check that you can't just become a study YouTuber without any experience and just an A+, but that you need experience and pure passion to become someone who is worthy of advising. I'm not against any rising young YouTubers, but they need to know their places. What is the point of basically copying someone? It signifies you do not want to provide any proper value, but you are doing it for the views." This is so, so important, and even I think more telling that this is from a viewer. It's not like from me, because viewers are not dumb, okay? The members of your audience that you want to be there, the people who are gonna make a high value audience, they are going to see through you if you try to put yourself off as an expert, okay? So I just want to make this distinction that you can be confident and express your opinions, but you cannot be like definitive, like, hey, this is what every person should follow because I know best, right? So the key is that if you play yourself off as someone with more experience or knowledge or credibility than you actually have, you will come off as just doing it for the views, which is never a good look. And it shouldn't be the approach you come with in the first place. So to become a YouTuber, it's not for the sake of being a YouTuber. Like you cannot want to be a YouTuber for the sake of being a YouTuber and to get views and to get money and whatever kind of perks there are. Because if you come with that goal, you are going to accidentally, subconsciously, naturally do, I think, some deceitful things, right? Like if views are the things that you have in mind instead of being your authentic self and sharing a message you're passionate about, then naturally you might gravitate toward being like, hey, I'm the expert at XYZ. And this commenter said, for example, the competition in Asian countries will overwhelm these students who want to be a study tuber giving advice, right? So the idea is like, not only do you have to have a certain credibility and experience within your field, but I think it's important that you also have a wealth of experience at a higher level. So, for example, in my videos, I say in the beginning, in my intro, I say I was valedictorian in high school while sleeping an average of 8 hours a day. I was also a varsity athlete. I did math competitions, earning top in the state. And I also graduated from Caltech, one of the hardest universities in the world, with a 4.0 GPA in chemical engineering, also while having a social life, staying healthy, and playing varsity basketball. And I worked in a Nobel Prize laureate's chemical engineering lab. This is a greater wealth of experience. And again, I'm just like sharing this as some context. Not to say that like just because you don't have credentials you can't make videos about studying, right? So this is just setting some background understanding. So this is being self-aware, okay? This is not bragging. My academic ability is top tier because Caltech is so hard and I struggled a lot, but I saw it through with my resilience, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, etc., right? So because I have this higher level caliber in the study field, I think that it makes sense if I speak in terms of a little bit more like, I think like this will help you. Because with my wealth of experiences and being at the highest level, I will know, okay, this can apply to people who are perhaps studying in Asia, where academics are also really hard, like about like maybe the same amount of toughness as Caltech, approximately same caliber, because I was studying at that caliber, doing math competitions, blah, 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 right? And just like super busy with multiple commitments. And so that way I can speak to a broader audience where this could apply to people in Asian countries. This could apply to high schoolers. This could apply to college students, and even some med school students and law school students will listen to me. And I'm not like saying I'm the smartest person in the world, and I'm not saying I could rock law school and med school because I haven't done that. But my portfolio of achievements, those suggest that, hey, I have the qualities and that experience to back it up, that what I say could be of value on a more definitive level. Okay, so the difference is that still, I'm not going to say, hey, I'm a know-it-all. You know, I don't give that across. I only give my credibility to set the context as to why my viewer will not be wasting their time listening to my video. But still, like, I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to try to talk to the viewer as a friend, like I'm trying to help, you know, because I do see myself in every one of my viewers, because I struggled as well. Like, I wish I had an older sister to tell me those things. So I think regardless of whatever expertise you are at, like, you still should just be a good person, humble, you know, like, everyone's all on the same level, okay? People have different levels of experience, but no one is above each other. Okay, so there's that important context of putting yourself as an expert, for example. So what happens if you're not really an expert? What happens if you have opinions and you have, you know, valuable lessons that you think would be helpful to someone, just to someone else? Well, then remember that YouTube and like filming a video and speaking to your viewer is just like kind of like you speaking with a friend, you know? You don't have to put on any facade. You just state what you think and make it clear that that's what you think because of X, Y, Z experience. You just speak to them like you're looking out for them, or like just like a friend, you know? So I think if you are more of an expert, maybe it can be more from like a mentor perspective, but equal friends in experience can still give advice to each other, you know? So what's essential is if you are, for example, you want to become a study tuber, you're in high school. Yeah, there's going to be people in college who still want study tips. And I personally don't think you can say, hey, college student, this is what you should do, because you have not experienced freaking college. But what you can do is you can document your journey and make it clear to say like, hey, here's how I'm getting straight A's, and here are the struggles I'm going through. Like, you can be someone walking through your journey to learn how to be an academic weapon, but you cannot already say that you're an academic weapon. Does that make sense? It's like, I'll link a video down below, because I think I heard this kind of advice from someone before. Maybe it was Dan Coe, honestly. Dan Coe, I think he was saying how, similar to me, everyone has value to give. It's only like what kind of flavor you give it, where like to stand out in a niche and grow an audience, you need to show you have value to give in that area. So you have two options. One, you're an expert, then, say all your expertise, your experience, your blah, 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 that helps people a few steps behind you. Or two, you can be the friend going along this journey with your viewer to become that number one, first option expert. Everyone, I think, has value to give because of your unique experiences and the way you think about things, but it's about the way you frame it. So to answer your question, it's kind of a long explanation. To answer your question, Mystic Meg, just because it has been said before doesn't mean you can't say it again, but you cannot say it in the same words and play it off as your idea. That would be plagiarism. You have to say things that come from you, first and foremost, from your brain and your heart. And then if it turns out to be what's already said by someone else, then that's fine, because you cannot own a universal truth, right? You cannot own a universal truth. Like, everyone is going to know, like, the sky is blue, right? It's not stealing an idea, but it has to come from you, and then you know why you say that. Because if you say something and you don't know why you said that, that means it's not really your idea. The important thing is, like, oh my gosh, there are so many copiers on YouTube, but that's for another discussion. You cannot hear something from someone and be like, oh, I love that idea, that tip, that's great, and then say it as if you're the expert that came up with that. It can inspire you and jog your memory to be like, oh, actually, I did that as well to succeed in school. And then when you share it, you should share it from your own words, from your own heart, from your own journey and your anecdotes. In the original question, what makes me qualified to share an opinion? You don't have to be qualified to share an opinion. You simply don't want to frame your opinion as an absolute, as a universal truth that may apply to nearly everyone in your niche, if that makes sense. Like, even me with some academic strengths, like I explained, in my videos, I will purposefully say, these are from my experiences. If the tip doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. It's not an absolute, and you should always be your own coach and see what works for you. Just take what I say as inspiration to help you and adapt it and customize it to yourself. So yeah, I hope that helps regarding your question about how to approach this in life as well. It's just be an honest person at the end of the day, and don't be afraid to say something, but it's like how you say it that matters. Still be confident and believe in who you are and trust your opinions and judgments, but remember that they're only your opinions and judgments. Does that make sense? And oftentimes those more subjective or like emotional, touchy-feely kind of statements or opinions, they will resonate with the viewer and make them feel like they're heard. So don't be afraid to share it. You have value to give. Something important too is like, you need to become a critical viewer if you are to become a successful creator. Think of it this way, right? When you're watching someone, think back to be like, wait, are they worth my time? Like, what can I learn from them actually? Do they have the credibility? And is what they're saying making me feel better or worse? Because right now, I think we make a lot of mental shortcuts where, like, if we see someone on a screen, like on YouTube, we're like, oh my gosh, they're credible. Oh my gosh, they can pull out a camera and film themselves and edit and put it on YouTube. Oh, they're someone I should listen to. They're automatically in a different category of human than me. I used to kind of think that way too as a consumer. But if you think critically, everyone's just a human. Everyone's just a normal person. So think critically as a viewer to become a good creator. If people are blindly listening to someone with no credibility, then those people will probably not be part of a high quality audience. And this is my preference and my experience in what pays off in the long run as a successful creator, someone who's not just chasing virality and things like that, because that's gonna be almost like wasted time, because you go viral once and you tried so hard for that virality and then you have absolutely no conversion into a committed audience, right? So that's why I emphasize that high value audience, is because I want a group of people who just resonates with me and like who I am. It's like my tribe, because that's the fun about YouTube. It's like you find people who are just like meant to be friends with you, like in another life. That's why that's my perspective on it. Like, if you don't agree with that, like maybe my YouTube tips are not for you, but that's why the beauty of YouTube. There's an audience for everything. All this comes full circle back to all of the advice that I said earlier. Okay, final question in part 1 of this YouTube Q&A. That's getting quite long. I hope everyone knows that this is a podcast, by the way, that like you can listen on the go, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. It's really meant to get deep and have a strong understanding above just quick TikTok tips. Because if you want quick tips, then yeah, go on TikTok. But the most successful and smartest people become that way by listening to podcasts and books, long form content. Last question is from ngun_mm. How do I inspire people? If that's the kind of creator you want to be, then that's the kind of person you have to be. But it cannot be like, oh, I want to be inspiring and you become inspiring. See, when you ask, how do I inspire people? That's very similar to asking, how do I be kind? It's not a question you can really answer. It's only something you can find within yourself. Inspiring people, how I think of it is, inspiring people are inspired by other things. And they can inspire themselves first and foremost. So that's two things. So how do you be inspiring? 1, you can inspire yourself. And 2, you are inspired by other things. So when you have certain qualities within yourself that you're proud of and things that you overcame and accomplished, you will remember those things and you can use that to inspire yourself to keep climbing higher and higher mountains. And so then when you realize that difficulty and all those trials were worth it and part of what makes a good life, struggles and overcoming them are part of what make a good life. It's not just sunshine and rainbows all day, then that's what makes you inspiring, because inspiring comes from challenges. It comes from things not being great and then you being the one to make them great. So you have to be able to inspire yourself first and foremost. And then number 2, you have to be inspired. So this is why my Instagram bio for a while was inspire and be inspired, because I think it's so important to do both. Because I'm incredibly inspired by so many things throughout my day, by so many people online, by so many quotes and stories and just the beauty in the world. For example, I'm walking and I look around and I see the flowers and they're so beautiful. And I'm just suddenly like in awe of how the world can produce so many varieties of colors and then different flowers and different shapes. And I'm like, wow, we also as humans are a miracle, and we are a miracle to exist first and foremost, and then we're a miracle to be able to make crazy things like phones that film videos, like mics, like, I don't know, have to wear blue light glasses, and Kung Fu Panda, Master Shifu, and Harry Potter, and create all these things, right? So that is like overthinking, but in like an inspiring, like be inspired way, because I think a couple steps ahead and like deeper and like, wow, that's great. And that encourages me to live up to my potential and to be like, hey, what can I create and contribute to this fabric of the human race? Because it's beautiful. Whoa, that got deep. So that's an example, right? So I think what inspires other people is when you say something that the listener's like, whoa, I felt that so deeply, and that brought something out of me that was deeply hidden, but I just couldn't bring it out. So to inspire people, you just have to be like a few steps ahead of that person you're inspiring, because it's like a two-way street, right? That listener also has to have the susceptibility to be inspired and to have had that potential to think what you just said out loud. That also comes with some critical thinking. We have mindless doom scrolling nowadays, right? But you cannot be inspiring or think of inspiring things if you're not thinking critically and just thinking a little deeper. So that's how I would describe the answer to how to be inspiring. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments too. I love open conversations and just continue learning from everyone. That's a great attitude to have as a creator. Like, to this day, I'm still always learning about how to make videos better, about how to present my ideas better, about life, just learning life. Speaking of the value of podcasts and long form content and internalizing and bathing in the energy of people you would love to be friends with or who you're inspired by, I have a newsletter. So if you would like more wisdom, inspiration, motivation, helping you find your drive, other things, you can sign up for my free newsletter. There are some letters that will be about studying, but I think, like my study videos, it's really so much more than just studying and reading books. And I think that you can learn how to be more resilient and all of the above by reading my newsletters. Like, don't subscribe to this channel. Don't subscribe to this channel if you are just looking for YouTube tips, because that's not the point of this channel, this podcast, and anything I do, honestly. It's not a siloed one thing, because I believe that my advice's value is in the explanations, like the reasons behind them, and in the mindset, like how you think about things, because it's not helpful to learn from someone being like, oh, they said XYZ, so I'm going to do XYZ. But it's more like, can I understand why the creator said XYZ? So then when I'm faced with a new problem, an unfamiliar situation, I can think of my own solution and creatively problem solve that out. So yeah, that's why I say, like, definitely check out the other videos and episodes on this podcast, because they will help you become a better and the most successful kind of creator. Bonus tip, conversion rate is really important. I alluded to this when I said earlier, like, don't chase virality, because, for example, my sister, the other day, she got her first viral video on TikTok, and it reached like 130,000 views, and she was like, oh my gosh, and I was like, oh my gosh, good job. And she's like, oh, but I only got 30 followers from it. And I'm like, oh, dang. But that makes sense, because it was a viral type video and it went viral, and people will just watch it and share it and blah, 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 right? They're not going to care that much about like the person who made it, or like see any correlation of that viral video to the rest of their content. So what's important is to care about the conversion rate of your content. So make sure that like the stuff you're putting out there is stuff that, if gone viral, that would convert people, that would convert viewers into subscribers, and then eventually loyal subscribers when they see the rest of your other content also being in line with that video that blew up. That'll also help you ride the wave, right? Because when you have a video that blows up, then other similar videos will be discovered by your viewers, and then like it'll be a domino effect. But you can't have a domino effect if your viral video attempts are all like unrelated. So pay attention to your conversion rate. That's going to save you a lot of time if you actually want to be a successful creator. So it's all about what you want at the end of the day, right? Like there's nothing wrong with chasing virality. There's nothing wrong with scrolling on your phone for hours a day. Okay, there's something a little wrong about that, because I think everyone should live their best life possible, and I don't think that's on a screen. But my point is, like, you have to understand what you want, and that's what's going to apply. Because I see some people commenting on my videos like, oh, but I just want to make videos for fun. Like, I don't need you to be, like, giving me this brutally honest, like, preaching. And I'm like, my video was directed toward people who want to grow a following and not make it just as a hobby, you know? So understand what you want and go chase it. Go get them. Actually attract it. That's the better attitude. This is becoming a longer outro than I expected, but I think also it's important to reflect about what were your strengths, because, you know, during COVID, I roomed with someone from Caltech who I didn't know that well, but she would always, like, I would always, like, see her in her room, and she would just be playing this game on her phone, like, so many hours a day. And then I would be, like, making videos. I'd be, like, applying to different things. I'd be, like, just doing some, like, little extra, like, productive things. And again, no right or wrong, right? But it's, like, what you want. And then one day we were eating breakfast together, and she asked me, like, oh, how do I do that? Like, why can you work so hard? And I'm like, I don't think of myself as working hard. I just think, like, this is what I want. This is what I enjoy, and that's what makes it easier. And I said some other things I don't quite remember, but they probably are very similar to what I share on my main YouTube channel. But yeah, it's just, I reflected and realized, hey, after I said that, my friend said, wow, you're so inspiring. You make me want to get off my game now. And I realized, like, oh, okay, maybe I have a knack for explaining some things, or, like, maybe the way I think of things can help other people get the lives they want to. So all these little things add up. You have to reflect. You have to journal and reflect and get your head out of social media, because your brain is so valuable and has so many thoughts and ways you can think of things and analyze them, that, like, you are doing a complete disservice to the amazing person you are if you don't let your amazing brain think. Okay, great job. Thank you so much for listening to this long Q&A, which is only part 1. Holy crap. But you all submitted great questions that I want to answer more of. So please stick around to check out part 2 when it comes out. And for those out there still listening, please don't write a summary. You know those YouTube comments where they write a summary with a little bullets like, oh, these are all the points, right? Well, if you are a creator, you probably know that you don't really want those kinds of comments, because it decreases your watch time, and, you know, you as a creator put in so much effort into the video and the podcast. It's like, oh, come on, man, don't just listen to the bullets. Don't just read the bullets. But, you know, to each their own. Just a reminder, you know, if you're a creator, then you know what I mean. Okay, great job, and keep living your A+ life. Thank you for your valuable time. I'll see you in the next one.